it is 6:15, Monday, July 1st, 2024, and we're going to call this meeting a workshop session of the Lewisville City Council to order. We do have a quorum. Microphones are live, and even though you think you're sitting in the back row, they hear you, so enjoy. Workshop, first up, we have item A, which is discussion of consent and regular agenda items. Council, if you would, grab your agendas. We have a proclamation for our police department record staff. And we have another one for Parks and Rec Month. Still need to watch that show. We have council canines. Item E1, public hearing. By the way, folks, get some food. There's way too many wings back there.
There's way too many everything back there. Eat. Mind
it's good eats. Public hearing. Consideration of ordinance granting zone change from single-family residential to Old Town Mixed Use 1. Any questions or comments? E2, zone change, single-family to Old Town Mixed Use 1. Questions or comments? Item 3. Special use permit for automotive repair. Item 4, special use permit for boat sales and service and motorcycle sales and service. We'll move on to consent agenda if there's no questions or comments. Item 5, minutes. Item 6, lease agreement between the City of Lewisville and SEMA Construction. Item H, regular hearing. 7, consideration of 2 alternative standards related to landscape islands and tree variety.
Just wanted to say I would appreciate seeing that the urban forester was able to weigh in on that. And, I mean, who knows how much we've missed before not having that position in place. It seemed like we agreed.
Item 8, variance to the Lewisville City Code, Section 2201, fee schedule, athletic field rental fees. This is for the Texas firefighter games. Anything like the reindeer games? I don't know.
You don't remember the
Item 9, consideration of an appointment to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, ZBOA. And we have reports. In your packets, there is a report for Keep Lewisville Beautiful, their annual report. And then we have City Council and staff reports for who knows what's going to happen on this short week. City Manager, do we have anything for closed session?
We, other than your discussion of election of Mayor Pro Tem and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, no.
Super. So that's the conversation for that. And any other questions or comments on the agenda? Okay. Then we are going to move to workshop session item B, compensation and benefits update.
Mayor, before we get started, can I have our chief also introduce our new assistant?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed that part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Council. I just want to introduce, this is Assistant Chief Donald Fulbright that we just had start with us earlier this month. Yep, last month. So anyways, wanted to introduce them all to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
So should we stay out of your former city profile since we're poaching all your guys?
Fine.
They're fine. We may not be. All right, moving on. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is the time of year for us to, as we start off the budgetary process, this is really an informational session to share some updates on what we're seeing on the marketplace as it relates to employee compensation, talk about some potential benefits updates. This is all a work in progress. Nothing's finalized out of this, but wanted to really share with you kind of as we begin the initial phases of budget planning, and obviously there'll be more discussions going into August on this topic. So I do want, before I forget, I do want to, there's a lot of data in here, a lot of data behind what's in the presentation. I want to thank Charlotte Reeves and Lauren De La Luz from my team who are hiding in the corner that are hoping not to be asked any questions for all their help. So if you'll have any deep dive questions, they are ready to help out. So through this presentation, what I want to do is first start off and just share or just refresh on direction that we've received from this body over the last year plus. And so you'll recall over a year ago, we did the compensation study, a significant investment from this council, from this organization in our employees. I know folks are very appreciative of that. And during those conversations approximately a year ago, one of the things we talked about was our philosophy for employee compensation. And a couple of things that the city council said at that time was that we want to be a leading city, and that we want, that level of leadership will be determined annually based on budgetary ability. So being a leading city, part of that, the concept there is we talk about being in the top third of cities. The way that we operationalized that in this past fiscal year was that we built our current pay plans off of targeting 100% of market at the time of budget adoption, plus 3% or 103% of market. So that's what our current structures are built off of to attempt to be a leading city. And then we talked some back in March when you all had your retreat. We talked about your previous priority for employee retention, development, recruitment, some of our successes, and you all just reaffirmed the importance of that program as we continue. So obviously pay and benefits ties into that key element. So to this presentation, two parts. First, go through employee compensation, and then conclude with talk briefly about medical premiums for next year, and then also talk about retiree health. So when we talk about employee compensation, we really break that up into two key categories. One is doing an external scan on the marketplace. What is market competitive pay? So think about the pay structures for our police officers, firefighters, but for our general employees. Some of those structures have defined steps. Some of those structures are open ranges. But what looking at the marketplace helps us do is establish our market competitive for the structures. And oftentimes when we move those structures, we move the people with those structures. The second piece is how do we then progress employees through whatever structure exists, whether it's a step structure or an open range structure, and that usually occurs either through steps or merit increase. So we have step programs for police officers, firefighters, the sworn ranks above them, as well as dispatchers, detention officers, and mechanics. The majority of our other positions fall into open ranges that are eligible for annual merit increases. Here's an example, or here's specifically what we did on the current budget year, tying back to those topics. So on the market side, we identify, this was right on the heels of the significant movement from the compensation study during the prior fiscal year. So we moved all of the general pay structures 1%, those employees moved with it. And then on the sworn police and fire side, we had roughly a 2 to 2.5% increase for police officer, firefighter, and the ranks above. And then also we back in October, changed the structure of additional pay for police officers and firefighters. Previously, you could either get education or certification pay, and now they're eligible for both at the same time. That's on the market side. On the merit side, then our general employees, we're doing on the current year a merit increase on anniversary date of 3%. So what that general employee sees in the current year is a 1% market movement on October 1, and then on their anniversary date, a 3% movement for a combined total of just a little over 4%. On the sworn side, they receive steps on their anniversary date. We do have a good chunk of our departments that are topped out, but those that are eligible for steps, those are typically about 4%. So that would be 4% plus the 2 to 2.5%. So those employees on the current fiscal year see approximately a 6 to 6.5% increase. And then we built the job family progressions, which I'll talk about in more detail in a future slide. So in the market analysis, we compare ourselves against, we've defined our 17 cities. This is something we talked about at prior council discussion as well. This is really nearby similar entities that share our labor pool. And so this is an example of what you can find on Facebook. If you're a current police officer or police officer at another jurisdiction or just an interested party, you can see these types of posts on Facebook. These show, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think the big theme, particularly for public safety positions, is that it continues to be a very hot marketplace, a very fast-moving marketplace. So these screenshots were taken from March, and the one on the right shows within Denton County, at the time, our Lewisville police officer starting pay was the highest amongst Denton County. Simultaneously, on the left side, the max pay for a police officer was not within the top 10 within the Metroplex. And so it's a continuously fast-moving environment, and we're always paying close attention.
So that's
Yes, please.
good context for that. So is that max pay, top salary, is that 10 years? That's max,
It's
it's not
kind of-
average?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's not an average pay at 10 years, that's the max pay at 10 years?
That's max pay. So if I've achieved the max, if I'm at the very top step of what I can do, that's what that is on the left.
All right, so our average at 10 years could very well be, this is just not what this list is showing.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I missed that one, I saw that, thank you.
Yeah. And so the next slide, this is now, that was March, that was anecdotal information from Facebook back in March. This is current market data showing us comparing our maximum pay for police officer against the maximum pay for police officers at those 17 jurisdictions we just showed. And so what this slide shows is that as of today, even though we targeted 103% of market last year, there's been so much movement amongst that market that now we're pushed down, and we are currently 12th out of 18 with our max out pay for police officer. If we were to push that October 1 to 103% of the market, which is our current methodology, that would push us up to 7th out of the 18. And then we've also modeled a couple of different options here of moving to 104 or 105% to be more aggressive as we're trying to push towards that top third. If we move to 104%, we'd be 5th, and 105%, we'd be 3rd. Obviously, each of those adjustments in our methodology come at additional cost. So what you see here at the bottom here is if we did October 1, moved all of our ranks of police using the 103 methodology here, cost about $1.25 million. It's about another $250,000 for each additional percent that we push that upward.
From a working perspective, do you know if all the cities are going to set at the same time? Or are we just going to be at that spot until like a month later when somebody else?
It's a great question, and I actually have my notes here to say it's a moving target. It's a moving target. And so it absolutely is moving all the time. Since that date in March, a couple of those cities moved.
Okay.
By the time we do a change in October, I don't think there's a lot to do it over the summertime. But when we move in October, there might be 3 or 4 others that move at the same time as us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but I gotta go back to this real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you said it was found on Facebook, and we know that Facebook is always truthful.
Absolutely.
There's no credit on this whatsoever. Were all of these verified to be accurate?
It's an interesting question. So it's a little bit in the eye of the beholder. Let's look at Flower Mound here. So Flower Mound is an example of a city where their max pay is actually a couple thousand less than this, but then they also have a top-out incentive on top of this. There's a couple of examples of that, but in general, otherwise, most of the time, you'll see this matches what's on the next slide. So in general, they are accurate.
Okay. I just get nervous when we pull something off Facebook.
Oh, absolutely. And that's not,
And
I shared it just for it to be additional information for you all, just context, but this is the information that we pulled that we're using.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the important part for me on that one slide is that, you know, we started off where you would see social media posts where people were like, man, Lewisville is killing it, we are a leader in this, and then 6 months later, Lewisville's doing terrible, and that's exactly what's happening, is you're leapfrogging each other all the time, but all cities are constantly looking at what others are doing because we want to be competitive.
I look at this, and, I mean, honestly, I see like there's a ranking, and so obviously, 105,953 is higher than 105,540, 47, but that's essentially the same salary.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so there's so much, like, they're so compact there that essentially, like, the top 10 are all everybody's kind of bringing home the same amount of
It's
money.
pretty close. And you'll see it even more on the next slide, just on the fire slide. It really
Yeah.
congregates a lot right at the top there. They're almost all right next to each other. And not to jump ahead, but it's effectively almost the exact same story on the fire side as on the police side.
They all jumped a lot after we did what we did last year.
So
Yes, sir.
part of what, and probably the most significant thing that drives this is staffing. So where are we as far as staffing levels in comparison to other cities?
far as our number of staff, or how
Yes,
full are we of
how
our
full are
existing
we?
staff?
Yeah, how many
I'm
open
trying to think
positions?
of how many vacancies we have right now, Chief.
We've got just a handful of positions that are available on the sworn side, a couple in our detention and our dispatch centers. And those are all been recent. If you remember, just a couple of meetings ago, I announced that we were full. And that was a temporary thing.
Sure.
But we count all staff as all those that are in the pipeline too. So whereas Chief Fulbright's openings in patrol are counted already with people that are in the academies right now to be eventually in that position. But we're only a handful, less than 6 right now.
How about on your side, Mark?
So 3 positions down, not counting the overhire, which we hired. So we're looking at a all hire, 6 right now. We'll see on that one.
Okay. I have no problem with where we need to go,
Yeah.
especially if we're full. But I also would like, maybe in future times, if we're looking at these, you know, cities are gonna leapfrog and jump as fast as they can to get people because they've got a deficit. So I don't know if there's a way to measure against, you know, Plano's 10% down, are they gonna go up, or are all of these in that range
I think
effectively full?
I think that's a factor, but in general, a lot of these cities have a philosophy of they want, like Plano's has always had some version of a philosophy of we want to be at the top of market or we want to lead market. So that's what's pushing them more than their vacancies.
Okay, okay. And I think that gets to what I think Councilman Patrick talks about, where are we just pushing money to push money?
It's there's no easy answers on this one. It does keep just pushing up and up, and it's a real conundrum. Yeah.
I will say, the flip side of that coin is that before we made our philosophical change to lead, we were struggling.
Yeah.
And so that change really turned things on its head, where now we have, I mean, not just for police, but like for Stacy's maintenance workers, for Chris's inspectors. I mean, people aren't getting burned out as much, where we actually have people in those positions, so.
It's Chris for the mill,
Yes, sir.
so I appreciate it, thank you.
All right. So that's police, fire, almost identical story as far as where we would rank, what the costs are. It's very similar to the police story. Moving on, so with one more piece related to police and fire, I told you before, you know, last year we looked at some of the additional pays. We continue to do that. We're competitive in our additional pays, but one area that we see opportunity is around, it's just a monthly stipend for field training officers in police and fire. We just have about 24 individuals that participate in that program across the 2 departments, and we're looking to move that from $100 a month to $180 a month in the future year, potentially. Shifting from police and fire specifically to our other our other step structure, our dispatchers and detention officers are also relatively competitive, but falling a little bit behind. And so looking at if we were at the 103 level, and you'll see on the cost slide in the future, we've got everything costed out at 103, 104, 105. So there's still flexibility in how we approach that as we get into the budget season. But as you see here, costs are around $180,000 to $219,000. But I think the lead here is that we are a little bit behind, and we see opportunity to move those in October.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to slow us down.
Yes, sir,
It's just
please.
an important topic.
Absolutely.
Can we go back one?
Yes.
So this is interesting. When we look at the salaries, those are just that's not total compensation, it's just salary.
That's just
So
base salary.
We're paying things that one half the cities aren't paying here.
In this example, this is one that only some of the cities pay. There's other ad pays where they almost all pay.
Is there a compensation, way to look at compensation across the board, not just salary?
There are so many different, no
know,
is the
yeah,
short
sure,
answer I
yeah.
expected. Well, you can see here, in this example, some cities are using a per day amount,
Yeah.
some are, and so it depends on their assignment, what is a day, how is it set up, so it's really hard to go apples and apples across all the different stuff.
I figured that was the
categories.
answer, but I was hoping you had some miracle slide in here that would do
I
it.
would love that.
Where's the data people? That's it.
They don't have the answer.
Are we good? All right, thanks. Dispatchers, about 3.87% behind on dispatcher. Moving on to our general government employees, this is a kind of a large category. This is all of our open range positions. Think of all of our, anywhere from a maintenance worker to a building inspector to a manager, to everything, to a librarian, to everything in between. These are our general government positions, our IT positions, our trades. Pleased to say that the way we built those structures and moving them 1% in January, we're still market competitive with those positions. So even if we took the 105% that we're doing on police and fire, we're right at across those groups that the structures are competitive at that level. I just want to be clear, that's the structures, not the people in the job. The structures are competitive with the marketplace. So we don't see a need to move the general government structures on October 1. But the way that we looked at our 40 benchmarks and our broadband positions is we said, if anything is significantly behind, we want to look at, pull those aside, any jobs linked to them, and address those specifically. So we've got about 33 employees across very specific jobs where those jobs are clearly not market competitive for a variety of reasons. And so we'd make some small adjustments to those jobs on October 1. Part-time, last year when we did the compensation study, we did adjust some of our part-time pay. It was kind of an 11th hour piece that we added in, and so as we took more time and looked closer at it, we identified this cycle that we do have some ground to potentially make up, particularly around our aquatics positions and then our crossing guard positions in part-time. So this is not a huge dollar item on the whole, but it is a big deal to these jobs. We see that school crossing guard, you know, they just work 2-3 hours a day when they're working, and so our rate of pay is significantly behind right there, about 21% behind. So we want to bump that by 2 of our part-time pay grades are a couple of dollars an hour. Lifeguards at about 8% behind, so looking to, for next cycle, bumping that up a pay grade or about $1 an hour, and then the positions that relate to lifeguards, all of our other aquatics positions. So that's between those two at about a cost of about $100,000. That's all the market look. So the other piece is people progressing through structures. So for police, fire, dispatch, detention, they're eligible for steps on anniversary date. We had this in last year's presentation. Just want to point out we do have a fair number of sworn folks that are already at top out. But dispatchers, detention officers, and those not at top out are eligible for steps, typically approximately 4% for the individual that's on their anniversary date. So that's a known cost going into next year tied to our people. The other piece is merit. And so merit this year, like I told you a few slides back on the current year, all those civilian employees, they're eligible for, on the current year, a 3% merit. And so this is our history of merits. What we're costing is options of either 3 or 4%. We're trying to shoot towards 4%. I would say a rationale for that is a lot of those civilian employees won't see any kind of market adjustments. This is their only form of pay increase. And we do continue to see CPI at about 3.3%, down from about 4% last year, but still relatively high. Job family progressions. This was a new thing that we created out of the compensation study last year. Just as a reminder what that is, senior level path for individual contributor jobs at various levels of the organization. And so we've been building those, and we're actually in the process of deploying those in July, so this month. And so we've created those positions. We're going to see approximately, give or take, about 47 employees move from the regular employee to the senior employee this summer. And we've slated out where people are against those minimum qualifications for the next fiscal year to say approximately 70 more of those will hit next year. And so that does have a cost. This is the fiscal year cost on the next year. But this is a great tool that we can use to retain individual contributors and have them see a path forward. So overall compensation, just wanted to throw, it's a lot of money. Everything on here, the caveat is these are all approximate. They might shift slightly, but this shows at the 3 different levels of the 103, 104, 105% market levels that depending on what all we end up doing out of this could be anywhere from $4.7 to $5.8 million next year. And so some actions will be funded, some will be unfunded. It all falls into the totality of budget as we work into August, but wanted to paint this picture for you guys on the compensation side. Any questions on compensation before I move over to talk about benefits for a couple minutes?
Obviously, through budget, we're working through all of these numbers to figure out what can fit. And just to give you a concept of that, with this, plus all the firefighters that we are going to be adding, it's a significant amount of money. That is going to be eating up a lot. So we will still put forward a very robust, well-rounded budget for y'all, but I just wanted you to be mindful of being competitive in that regard, but also making sure our fire suppression is provided at the top level that we need in our community. That is going to carry a lot of the cost this next year. So you can blame Mark McNeil. All directors.
You can blame me for this part and Mark for the rest of it. There you go. Yeah. And so the rest of this presentation, this part's pretty quick. Just as we talk about comp and benefits, I know employees always wonder, okay, well, how much more will I pay in medical premiums next year? And so just to refresh, what we did on this prior year was based on employee input. We shifted from 3 plans to 2 plans We try to communicate, make them a lot more succinct and communicate it more clearly. I think employees are having a generally positive experience with that. We're still early in our data on that, and so what we're going to do is hold tight on our employee premiums through this next year, get more than 12 months of data under these plans as we get into like January of next year, and so planning for the future fiscal year, we'll do a longer term look and make sure we're in a good spot going forward. But we've got about a $12 million reserve for our employee benefits fund, so we're in a good spot and I feel like we're well funded for this upcoming year. Last topic is retiree benefits. So I have 2 slides here. One, I'll kind of refresh on conversations we had a year ago, and then 2, share some updates and actions going forward. So last summer we talked about retiree medical premiums. And so just as a refresher, right now the city contributes a fixed amount, or kind of supplements a fixed amount towards retiree medical premiums based on years of service. So if I have 20 years of service with the city, I'll get a $498 a month reduction on my premium. Or if I have at least 25 years with the city, it's about a $547 reduction on my premium. We did some looks last year. We had our actuary cost out. Well, what if we, and you see those are approximate percentages on the side. What if we change those to 50% and 100% based on those years of service? And you may or may not recall me mentioning this last year, but basically the analysis came back and said our OPEB liability, which we are required to report per GASB, is would balloon. It would go from 4.2 million to 17 million immediately. Our annual contributions would go up by $1 million a year, and in the out years it would balloon up to 47 million. And so what we pledged during that conversation last summer was that we would go out and look at our 17 cities and understand what are they doing with their retirees and how is that looking. So that's what this next slide is. It's got way too much information on it, that's my fault, but I'll try and condense it down for you into the key elements. I think one, on the left side, what this is showing is if we just look strictly at our subsidy, those numbers I was just showing there of the $498, we are competitive in how we're doing our subsidy. We're doing $498 or $547, and the averages are significantly lower out there, but that's just part of the story. The remainder of the story is in the center there, is that we, when you net out the subsidy and you just say what are the actual premiums and net out any subsidy, our employees are paying more than they are paying at the average city out there. I would also say that there's significant variability from one city to the next in how much their retiree premiums cost. That's what's shown in this middle, and you see that the data is all over the place. And so the question would be, so we're behind there. Our employees are paying more for their premiums than they are in other cities. Why? I think the primary answer is this. When we have a strong history of doing well fiscally as an organization. Our OPEB, or other post-employment benefits liability, is approximately it's projected approximately 4.2 million. We actually have that fully funded, so it shows up on our balance sheet as an asset versus a liability, which is rare. Everybody else owes lots and lots of money, and we actually are in a great fiscal position. Part of that is, what we do is when we set rates for employees versus retirees, we look at those entirely separately. In general, retirees cost more than employees do. So when we set the rates separately, we get a higher retiree rate than we get for employees. What you see in a bunch of these other cities is they have it all together, and so what's effectively happening is the employees are kind of carrying the retirees in their premiums. And so that's when you see over here likely implicit subsidization. About half of them are doing some version of that. And that's why their employees are paying less. So it's good for their employees, they're paying less. They're also putting themselves where they have a lot more liability. So it's a complicated bunch of math. And so what we want to do is, going forward, recognizing there's this challenge for our employees that they are paying more than they're paying elsewhere, is that we would like to get back with our actuary and study some rate options that both fully or partially bridge that gap between what we're doing today and what the other cities are doing, and see what truly would be the long-term fiscal impact of those decisions, and come back to council with some options on that, probably in November. So that's trying to summarize what all's there. Feel free to ask any questions, but that was really the last key point I had out of the presentation.
Council?
What are the little hash marks?
Do you have denotations up there? But there's no explanation as
Yeah,
to what
my
they are?
apologies. Yes, I've got, and I don't actually have them right in front of me, but they're just footnotes on different places of how, in some cases, it was the employee group, they changed things in the year 2008 or 2009, and they have one subgroup for employees since 2008, 2009, and one subgroup for, and so it was me denoting which employee group I was selecting there to show.
I'm assuming you were selecting the employee group that most closely matched.
I was trying to do it what most closely matched, and then what I was trying to make it as apples as possible was to say, take their lowest cost plan, 20-year employee, and use a specific example to see how does it really play out.
Quick question here. So
Yes, sir.
I was looking at these kind of numbers. I see that kind of variability over in the OPEB column.
Yeah.
I go to medians and average. Is that counted from, how do you feel about that?
Median versus average?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the data set, right? That's why I show you both, because I was like, yeah.
I'm looking specifically at this data set for OPEB. It's almost $90 million for average. Half of that for
Yeah. To me, median's better, especially when you have a Fort Worth and a Dallas in there.
There's huge outliers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So,
Other comments, questions? Who knew HR was just math?
that's all we do. Thank you all for paying attention and asking great questions. And if you have any deeper dive questions, we have professionals over there that can help you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Nice questions. All right, council, if there are no further questions or comments, we will go ahead and reconvene into regular session at 7 o'clock. Good evening. We're going to call this regular session of the Lewisville City Council to order. We do have a quorum. First up on tonight's agenda, we have the invocation with Councilmember Brandon Jones.
Please join me in a moment of silent contemplation and prayer. Thank you.
Councilmember Cade.
Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. We have a proclamation tonight, and I think we have our police department record staff here. Y'all get to come on up. Please join me. Now, folks, normally when somebody says we're going to talk about police records, that is not a great news kind of conversation, right? But these folks are the backbone of our police department. They are the ones that make sure that when things happen, that they are done right, they are done correctly, and that everybody's rights are upheld. So I cannot thank you all enough for doing what you do, because I don't get kickback. And when it doesn't come back up to the mayor, it's an amazing thing, because you guys are doing it the right way. So I have a few whereases to go through, so I apologize for the length of those, but maybe blame the chief. Whoever wrote that, it's on them. Well, perfect. So, whereas the City of Lewisville Police Department Records Division is responsible for answering non-emergency calls, assisting customers in the police lobby, processing requests for information, and retaining police records throughout their life cycle, and whereas the police records staff responds to requests from internal and external customers and is integral in building relationships with other police agencies, governmental entities, and other organizations promoting interagency communication, and whereas the Lewisville Police Department creates approximately 12,000 offense records and approximately 4,600 arrest records each year, and which must be coded and maintained. And whereas the police records staff play a significant role in properly disseminating public records under the Public Information Act, and the City of Lewisville recognizes the importance of every law enforcement position in service in our community. Now, therefore, I, T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, and on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of July 7th through 13th, 2024 as Police Records Week in Lewisville, Texas, and urge all residents to observe the occasion with appropriate ceremonies and activities. One of those being, don't generate a record. That'd be all right? Just do that one. So let's give them a hand.
My name is Emily. I'm the senior records technician with the records department. And when I first started working there just a little under 3 years ago, I never would have thought that this would have been my dream job, but I get to work with some really cool ladies, and I am so proud of all of the work that they do. So again, please give them a round of applause.
All right, thank you all. Seriously though, just lay off the crazy fireworks and all that this week and not generate a record. That'd be lovely. All right, and next up, we have Parks and Rec staff. We got a bunch of Parks and Rec staff. Let's bring up this whole side of the house. Love our PARD team. We have just amazing teams all throughout this city. So this proclamation is a little bit different here. We've got a few whereases, so if you'll follow along with me. And, you know, we can do call and response, so if I do whereas, you guys can do it all at the same time. We can move through this a lot. We'll have a great time. So, whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout the country, including the city of Lewisville, Texas, and our parks are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community through play. And there we go. Recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the physical, mental, and emotional health of all residents. And Parks and natural areas are considered healthy infrastructure and fundamental to the well-being of our community, and our parks and open spaces ensure a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And the City of Lewisville has committed to providing each resident a quality park within a 10-minute walk from their front door. And the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. Therefore, I, T.J. Gilmore, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, and on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2024 as Parks and Recreation Month. Not the TV show, the team. In Lewisville, Texas, and urge all residents to observe the occasion with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Get out and play in a park. So let's give these folks a great big hand.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just amazed by this team that we have, and Parks and Rec Month is to celebrate our professionals that do it every single day. The motto for Parks and Rec Month this year is where you belong, and that's really fitting for our team because we've always done it. We do it every single day, making sure that everybody feels welcome and safe by inclusive programming, making sure our parks and trails are accessible for everybody, and just making sure that everybody's welcome and safe. Yeah, we really appreciate it, and it's all because of these people. They're the professionals, and it's to celebrate them, and it proves that why Lewisville is the best Parks and Rec department in the state of Texas.
Y'all done good. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Also, hey, give yourselves a hand for the great call and response. That was really awesome. Councilor Kelly's up here with his parks banner here, so just do hop Thank you, Chris. All right, next up we have item D, presentation, Council Canines.
We're here with Paige, a 6-year-old lab mix that's looking for a new home. She's a very chill dog, very treat motivated. She has very unique color eyes, and she'll make a wonderful companion for somebody. She's a little older, so she probably work with the older person who doesn't want to move around a lot because she likes to chill and hang out and eat treats.
Cause I've got a crush, my baby, on you.
I've got a crush on you, sweetie pie.
That's a lot more dog than the schnauzers you got at home.
Yeah.
Well, folks, the shelter, as always, if not her, then someone else. If you need to have a little more love in your house and a little more fur on your carpets and walls, you need to go find yourself a pet. I cannot stress it enough. The pet really makes your house a home. All right, next up, item E, public hearing. Public hearing, consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from single-family residential R7.5 district to Old Town Mixed Use 1 district on approximately .256 acres legally described as Lot 2, Block A, Sonkus Addition, located at 247 West Walter Street, as requested by Jason and Nikki L. Sonkus. Sorry, I know, it's an old name, I should have gotten it the first time around. Sonkinus, the property owners. This is case number 24-05-5-Z. The applicants are requesting a rezone of the property to the Old Town Mixed Use 1 zoning district to facilitate a home renovation and the addition of a new detached workshop on the property. The request is consistent with the recommendations of the Old Town Master Plan in the Lewisville 2025 Vision Plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 5-0 on June 4th, 2024, and is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. We do have Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, available for questions, and we are now having an open hearing. So the public is now invited to speak. There's no comments on this. We'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as set forth.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning approximately 0.256 acres of land legally described as Lot 2, Block A, Sockiness Edition, located at 247 West Walter Street, from single-family residential R-7.5 district zoning to Old Town Mixed Use 1 OTMU-1 district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the zoning amendment herein made promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the city, providing for repeal or severability and a penalty and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Public hearing number 2. Consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from single-family residential R7.5 district to Old Town Mixed Use 1 district on approximately .271 acres, legally described as portions of Lot 1 and Lot 2, Block 1, Original Town of Lewisville Edition, located at 227 North Charles Street, as requested by Stephen Homeyer, Homeyer Engineering, the applicant on behalf of the property owner William Farr of Charles Street Resources, LLC. Case 24-04-4-Z. The owner is requesting a rezone of the property to Old Town Mixed Use 1 to expand and convert his childhood home to the administrative offices for his contracting business. The proposed zone change is consistent with the recommendations of the Old Town Master Plan and the Lewisville 2025 Vision Plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous 5-0 approval of this alternative standard on June 4th, 2024, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lukey, our Planning Director, is available for questions, and the public hearing is now open. There's no...
I had a question.
If you have comment, you'll have to come to the front so we can all hear you, please. Thank you for that. And if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Catherine Garrett. I live at 236 College Street, but this house is my grandmother's house. And I will point out, in the ownership lineup, it belonged to Jack and Alma Lewis. Jack Lewis is the second mayor on the wall out there. And it has been owned by 7 of my family members in the progression of time. So Will is very intent on maintaining things in Old Town. So he will do, well, and the person who is actually in charge of this has a lovely picture. It will be wonderful. And the house is that corner over there.
Right across the street, yes.
If it don't realize that.
Thank you for the feedback. Much appreciated. Council, any comments?
I had a quick question, just out of curiosity, and I'm not sure if Richard's going to be able to answer, or maybe our speaker might be able to answer. What year was that house built in?
I think the best I had come up with was the 30s.
The 30s? Okay.
It was built, some man built it for his new bride, and she didn't like it.
Ma'am, if we could get you to the podium, we need the comments on the record. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
As I said, some man built it for his new bride, and she didn't like it. And my father's father bought it in some business deal, and my father's father sold it to my mother's parents, and they lived there for years. As I say, Mr. Lewis was the one who was the mayor earlier on. Then my grandmother lived there. It was deeded to my mother. I lived there, and now my son owns it. And he's the one that's working on the business.
Okay.
So I'll stop rambling, but thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate the history. It's important.
I appreciate the history. I just wanted to, my comment was that I really appreciate I love seeing these old structures refurbished and used for whatever purpose, for either residential or for an office. I think it's a perfect use for it. It's a perfect space for it. And I think it's a really, really great, not an addition to Old Town because it's been here, but I just love seeing the old get that new life put back into it. And I appreciate the effort that goes into that.
Other comments? Questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Oh, and I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as set forth.
Mayor, a motion to approve
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by rezoning approximately 0.271 acres of land legally described as a portion of lots 1 and 2, Block 1, the original Town of Lewisville edition, located at 227 North Charles Street, from single-family residential R-7.5 district zoning to Old Town Mixed Use 1 OTMU-1 district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, determining that the zoning amendment herein made promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the city, providing for repeal or severability, a penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Public hearing number 3, consideration on an ordinance granting a special use permit for automotive repair major on a portion of approximately 2.038 acres legally described as Lot 2, Block A, Ratliff Masonry Addition, located at 720 Valley Ridge Circle, zoned Light Industrial District, as requested by Joseph Ward, DTS Interiors LLC, on behalf of Hermosa Partners Limited, the property owner. Case number 24-05-7-SUP. DTS Interiors is a small business that specializes in custom car upholstery that proposes to operate out of a lease space in the Spencer Place development. They are seeking a special use permit to allow for the use of on-site car upholstery, a type of automobile customization which is classified as automotive repair major. The request is consistent with area uses and zoning and in alignment with the big move of economic vitality as outlined in the Lewisville 2025 Vision Plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous 6-0 approval on June 18, 2024, and it's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, is available for questions. Public comment and the public hearing is now open. Are there any comments to be made on this one? If not, Council?
I have just a quick question for Richard, or clarification. This is an existing building that there's going to be a finish-out tenant for, correct? This is not new light industrial?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. With that, I will move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Council, I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for automotive repair major on a portion of a 2.038 acre lot legally described as Lot 2, Block A, Ratliff Masonry Addition, located at 720 Valley Ridge Circle, Zone Light Industrial LI District, providing for repeal or severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Public hearing number 4, consideration of an ordinance approving a special use permit for a boat sales and service and motorcycle sales and service on a portion of approximately 7.662 acre lot legally described as Lot 5R, Block A, Crossroads Center North, located at 2601 East State Highway 121 Business, Suite 111, Zoned Light Industrial District, as requested by Andrea Even, Ventura, Texas Marine, the applicant, on behalf of AR Ready Castle Hills LLC, the property owner. Case number 24-05-8-SUP. Ventura, Texas Marine, a business that specializes in the sales of luxury custom boats and electric motorcycles, proposes to occupy a 2,960 square foot space within the prime office warehouses located on the west side of Leora Lane, north of East State Highway 121. The request is consistent with area uses and zoning and in alignment with the big move of economic vitality as outlined in the Lewisville 2025 Vision Plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 6-0 on June 18, 2024, and it is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, is available for questions. Public hearing is now open. Are there any comments on this?
Richard, again, just to clarify that this is an existing facility, that this is a finish-out tenant.
Yes, that is correct.
No other comments. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney?
This is an ordinance of the Lewisville City Council amending the zoning ordinance by granting a special use permit for boat sales and service and motorcycle sales and service on a portion of a 7.662 acre lot legally described as Crossroads Center North, Lot 5R, Block A, located at 2601 East State Highway 121 Business and Zone Light Industrial LI District, providing for a repealer severability penalty and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item F, Visitor Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. City Secretary, any comments?
No, sir, we don't have anyone signed.
All right. We'll move on to consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so request. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or e-comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. City Secretary, do we have any requests for removal?
No, sir, we don't.
All right. Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Item H, 7, regular hearing, consideration of 2 alternative standards related to landscape islands and tree variety for proposed warehouse building expansion on a .53 acre lot legally described as Watson Properties Addition Block A, Lot 2, located at 960 North Mill Street, Zoned Light Industrial District, as requested by Blaze Bowens, Kimley Horn, on behalf of JBMS Realty LLC, the property owner, case number 24-04-7-ALT-STD. The warehouse at 960 North Mill Street was originally built in 1997 and is currently used as a tile and plaster service contractor. The property owner is seeking to expand the warehouse on the eastern and western portions of the building. This expansion requires that the entire site be brought up to Lewisville's current development standards, which requires more landscaping than was originally provided on the site. The applicant is seeking to follow the following 2 alternative standards. A, to waive the landscape island requirement at the end of each row of parking, and B, to allow an understory tree in lieu of the required shade tree. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous 5-0 approval on June 4th, 2024. It's recommended that the City Council approve the 2 alternative standards as set forth in the caption above. We do have Mr. Richard Lutke, our Planning Director, available for questions.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to staff for working with this applicant, because getting the existing property up to the current standards would be, way too costly. And I appreciate staff working with the applicant to make sure that the intent of our code was met here, even if the letter of the code could not be met.
It's our pleasure.
With that, I move to approve the 2 alternate standards set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8, consideration of a variance to the Lewisville City Code, Section 2-201 fee schedule, waiving athletic field rental fees and temporary event permit fees associated with the Texas Firefighter Summers Games. The Texas Firefighter Games, TFFG, everything's got an acronym, a 501c3 organization, has been organizing statewide athletic events since 1983. This year, Lewisville will host the event from July 21st through the 26th, utilizing both city and private facilities, including Lake Park soccer fields, Railroad Park baseball fields, and pickleball at Sun Valley tennis courts. The games feature a variety of sports such as soccer, basketball, and sand volleyball, attracting over 1,500 firefighters and their families from across Texas. The tournament director is working with the Lewisville Convention and Visitors Bureau to arrange accommodations with the Hilton Garden Inn as the host hotel and other additional venues as overflow accommodations. The Lewisville Fire Department will actively participate in the games. The estimated fees for field rentals, parks and recreation staff support, and temporary event permits total approximately $6,403, with a request for a full waiver of these fees. TFFG will be required to meet the city's liability insurance standards and adhere to the facility rental agreement. It's recommended that the City Council approve the variances set forth in the caption above. Council, I'll entertain a motion if there are no comments.
I move that we approve the variance as set forth in the caption above.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Item 9, consideration of an appointment to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Historically, one seat on the Zoning Board of Adjustment has been held by a Planning and Zoning Commissioner member who was selected by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to select Rick Llewellyn to the ZBOA at their June 18th, 2024 meeting. Article 3, Chapter 3.1, Section 3.1.4 of the Unified Development Code provides that the City Council shall appoint all members of the ZBOA. It's recommended that the City Council appoint Rick Llewellyn to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Rick Llewellyn to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Item I, reports. Reports about items of community interest regarding which no action will be taken. Councilmember Green, you mind being first?
Sure. I actually don't have much to report, although I am looking forward to the concert and the fireworks tomorrow night. I will be leaving my dog at home inside the house. She does not like the fireworks at all, as I imagine most people's dogs do not either. So please be kind and put your dogs up so that we don't have a bunch of dogs running around here Wednesday morning. And I also, there was one more thing that I wanted to say that I forgot. Maybe it'll come back to me in a minute.
I'm sure we can work it back if it comes to you. Councilmember Jones?
Just want to remind everybody to go visit the Jane Carey Animal Shelter, pick up a furry pet. They have cats, dogs, bunnies. I think I saw that they have some of everything. So, I think North Texas wide, all the cities are having this issue with overflow. So go find yourself a pet. They'll be grateful for you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Kane?
Yeah, the Firefighter Olympics, if you've never been to one, we had one of the first ones here in 95. Wasn't it 95? Yeah. And then we had a second one. It's a lot of fun, and it's some very deep, major competitiveness going on there. I'd love to see a state joint police fire Olympics here one day. That would be awesome. But I also want to say thank you to all of our employees for enduring this heat out there. I do have the fireworks show tomorrow, as Kristen said. There's going to be another one, the 4th of July, east of town. Is that correct? Is Castle Hills doing one?
It's doing a small one.
There's a small one out there. But I think every day this week, since Saturday, there's been a 4th of July. And yes, no, it's not on the 4th of July. But we thought since we still had our taxpayer dollars going for the concert, we didn't want to double dip and have to pay all this extra money to have a festival 2 days after that, so that we could actually all stay home and make sure our property's still safe and our dogs are safe. So every municipality is doing it on different days. It's not necessarily the 4th, but this way you could just think about it. You can take your kids, pile them up, and every day you can go see fireworks. Thank you to our parks for being so diligent in dealing with all the flooding and the closed lake park, and the police officers for helping us with traffic control. This is one thing that I got, and I shared with you, but I haven't shared with them. Several calls and kudos on our officers maintaining the crowd control at the very north part of Mill. And all the residents really, really appreciated that. Everybody have a happy 4th.
Councilmember Meredith?
Yes, Mayor, we have some activities at the library this week, although it's a little bit less this week. Thursday, July 4th, obviously, the library will be closed. Friday, July 5th, they have Feel Good Fridays, Centangles, and Mandela Art from 2 to 3 p.m. at the Crawford Meeting Room. Registration is required. And also on Friday Family Matinee, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Bennett Program Room. A ticket is required. And that's all I've got.
Councilmember Troyer?
Yes, I have a number of items for the Lewisville Grand Theater. First of all, performances. There will be a movie premiere, El Vendedor, presented by having trouble seeing. Nando de la Genta on July 8th. Miss America Teen International Pageant, presented by Miss Florida Teen Scholarship Pageant on July 13th. And as always, the acoustic jam sessions on Friday nights, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville. Activities going on, we have Yoga in the Plaza, presented by Blue Anjou Studio on Wednesdays. Body Weight Boot Camp, presented by Case Cortez on Thursdays. Tai Chi in the Plaza, presented by Lowell Johnson on Saturdays. And Pilates in the Plaza, presented by Audrey Green Radier on Saturdays. And we have 3 exhibitions going on right now. First of all, Movements, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville, June 1st through July 6th. Let the Tablecloth Speak, Yas Marty's solo show, presented by the City of Lewisville, June 8th through July 6th. Cowboys and Critters, presented by the Visual Art League of Lewisville, July 13th through August 24th. Excuse me. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, sir. City Attorney? City Secretary?
No report, Mayor.
Richard?
No report, Mayor.
Rochelle? What do we got for lake level?
The Lewisville Lake report, Mayor, the current elevation for Lewisville Lake is 527.76 feet, which is 100% full.
It is. All right. Thank you. Jim?
Just a quick update on the Public Safety Center. Things are going well. Parking structure and support buildings should be substantially complete by the end of this month. And Central Fire Station by likely the end of next month. Notwithstanding, still a lot of work to do, finish outs in parking and site work and that kind of thing. And the admin building still got a long way to go, so.
Thank you, sir.
Well, just a reminder that personal fireworks are illegal in the city limits. Many people are injured, and a lot of fires started each year across the country from fireworks. But we don't need them because we've got an incredible show tomorrow night. Come out and watch that, and then catch any of the other professional shows in this area and get your fix that way.
Chief?
Just want to remind everybody that we're well aware that fireworks are illegal. You don't have to call 911 for every single one of them. Our officers and staff are going to be very tapped out. Call us for emergencies that you think are things that we need to have a police or fire response to, and the rest of them we are tracking and actively trying to enforce.
Thank you, sir.
All right, just a few things here. So first off, I want to thank Fire Station number 5 for letting my son, myself hang out last week. That was a lot of fun. Always great to do ride-alongs. The Shimmer and Shake event that we had out at Thrive last week, I think it was Thursday night, while I did not shimmer nor did I shake, the High Bakery gave some great cupcakes and pastries out there. That was fantastic. So please go out there and support them. They're not technically in Lewisville, but they supported. They did a great job. I met some great folks out there as well. Not as big, I think, as we would have liked, but next year's a building year, right, Stacey? It's a building year. So next year will be better. Met some great people out there. And then finally, it's getting time for Battle of the Badges again. I just got an email today that if you're looking to sponsor or have a booth you'd like to put out there, sell your wares, now's the time to go ahead and get registered. You can send an email to boblewisville@gmail.com, B-O-B, Battle of the Badge, B-O-B, boblewisville@gmail.com. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager, nothing? No. All right. Quick shout out again to our Public Works team. Did you remember?
I remembered what I was going to say.
Oh, well, there we go. I missed the hand wave. My apologies.
Storm debris. Mine has not been picked up either. And we're going to be patient and we're going to get there. This is a long haul. It's only been 2 weeks. Do we have any indication of how far along we are in it, or?
You know, it will get.
It's going to get there when it gets there. We got to be patient in the meantime, because it's not just.
And just pick mine up last.
It's not just our neighborhood. It's not just our city. It's all of them. So please be patient. I don't like it either, but we're in it. Let's just be patient.
Yeah, and a huge thank you to the Public Works team. I know everybody's out there busting their humps to make sure that this gets done. It's always a hard lift, especially we tend to forget. So you fill that truck up, right? It's a 40-yard truck. If you've seen the thing, it's a monster. We're not slacking here. I've seen it several times around the city. But now it drives to the landfill, and what does it do? It has to sit for 2 hours to get that material offloaded so that it can get back into the neighborhoods. So remember, and these guys are working 10-hour days, maybe even 12-hour days. I don't know exactly what they've got for time, but they are not just working a basic 8-hour day. So keep that into consideration, because it wasn't just Lewisville that got hit by these winds. It was multiple cities across North Texas. And if we really want to be complaining about brush and whatnot, I'd recommend you all take some time and volunteer just north of us, where, quite frankly, that community got wiped out. So we're doing okay with just a few branches and brush that we have to deal with. So patience and grace. It'll get done when it gets done, and nobody is slacking here. And no one part of the city is getting benefit over another part of the city. We're working through it equally and even all the way through. So I appreciate you guys' patience. Sometimes the commenting on social media gets a little out of control. Just come to the city, Lewisville staff, any one of your city manager, city staff, city folks, any one of your elected officials. We can get you the real scoop as opposed to just the drama and the pot stirring. So thank you for that. Another one I wanted to mention is that I think there's 1 or 2 days left, so while you're doom scrolling, instead of getting into that nonsense, hop over to Best of Denton County, just type it in, Best of Denton County, and vote for some local businesses that you want to see spotlighted. Voting is finishing up here in the next day or two, so if you do that tonight or tomorrow, that'd be great. But just Google Best of Denton County, and then go on there and spend a half an hour picking and voting for businesses that you wouldn't see highlighted for Denton County.
We have an awesome police officer that has run DWI tickets all over the place, more so than I think anybody around here. He's a real cop, and he deserves a vote.
Yep, there we go. Do you know his name?
I'm afraid to put that out there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And I also want to give a quick shout out for the folks. If you haven't done one of these activities in the plaza here, so whether that's the body weight workout or the Tai Chi or Pilates. Now, okay, I'm not flexible enough to do Pilates. Never going to happen. But I have worked with Lowell with Tai Chi, and I have actually Kristen Green and I both work out with Case Cortez. His body weight workout is pretty impressive. So. Spend some time, get a little healthier. It's a great place. Come out here, grab a cold drink, and enjoy yourself. And you're going to sweat a little bit, but it's a great resource that we provide here in the plaza in Old Town. With that, we're going to go ahead. Oh, by the way, quick note for anybody who is interested, we do have a report on Keep Lewisville Beautiful. Their annual report on 2024 is in the council packets, as well as additional information. You can find that on the website. If you have a question about where to find all the stuff that we read every couple of weeks, it's all public information. Please feel free to reach out to anybody here on the front of the dais, give us a phone call, hit us on social media. We can direct you to how to find that information if it's hard to find on the city website. But it's pretty straightforward stuff, and you can read everything that we read to make these decisions up here. Finally, we're going to move into closed session. So within accordance of the Texas Government Code, Subchapter D, Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition, Section 551.074, Personnel, Discussion of Election of Mayor Pro Tem and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, Deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We're going to move into closed session.
Luis.
All right, we are back from closed session. Counselor, is there any action to be taken?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Councilman Patrick Kelly to Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Ronnie Kay to Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. All right, for those of you still online out there, Luis Montoya would be an amazing person to do Best of Denton County for. So just Officer Montoya, you can put that up on the website. Next, you've got about a day and a half to go. With that, there is no additional action to be taken on tonight's City Council agenda, so...
Luis Lopez.
You told me Montoya.
He said Montoya.
Okay, Officer Lopez is the one who has the high DWI.
Ah, okay, so the DWI Officer Lopez. Officer Lopez, my apologies. But you know what? Officer Montoya is a wonderful person too. Let's just bring that home to Lewisville. How's that? So with that, no additional action to be taken. It is 7:45 and we are adjourned.